Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to be talking about the Qatari, a race of half-genies that can be found in the world of Braunhaven. So, the Qatari are most commonly found in the El Rabaria Desert and in the distant kingdom of Erebachia, and the reason for this is twofold. One, the El Rabaria Desert is rife with connections to the elemental planes, and uh, this is kind of similar to how the Salvanus Forest has permanent connections, but with the El Rabaria Desert, the difference is that the veil seems to wax and wane frequently, undulating back and forth along the El Rabaria Desert's ley lines, allowing for elemental creatures to cross over. The most common of those, of course, are the jinn and the Ifrit, though there are other types of genies that make their way over that can be found in the desert. The other reason is that during the War of the Heavens, the archdevil Lazak came to the El Rabaria region and kind of set up shop there. And his lieutenant, Mavrusha, had some connections and contacts with the Ifrit of the city of Brass in the elemental plane of fire, and she concocted a deal. The problem that Lazak had is that Lazak was, as far as archdevils go, he was kind of a low man on the totem pole. He had made several mistakes, and because of this, he did not have the legions of devils and demons to bring over in order to secure his position on the land that the other two archdevils had during the coming of the three. And so, in order to bolster his forces, Mavrusha used her contacts in the elemental plane of fire to essentially bring over the Ifrit as mercenaries. And so these Ifrit all came over, and they used the Ifrit as their legions to pacify the region. Um, for the most part, this worked fairly well. What Lazak didn't really foresee is that the Ifrit are almost as intelligent and conniving as he was, and so um, the the Ifrit saw what was going to happen, and they dug in. They knew that Lazak's hold on the prime material plane was tenuous and that it couldn't last, and they made several concessions and plans for the day that Lazak and Mavrusha would fall. And so, having done that, even after the War of the Heavens and the Hammer Strike of the Gods, many of those genies, both Jinn and Ifrit, still remain in the desert. And of course, with the Ifrit coming over to act as mercenaries, the Jinn were just a few steps behind them, bringing their eternal war between the Jinn and the Ifrit to the prime material plane, focused in the El Rabaria Desert. And there are still skirmishes between them today. And usually this takes the form of massive sandstorms and things of that nature sweeping across the region, causing much devastation. While especially during the War of the Heavens, but with these genies being a permanent part of now of the prime material plane, there has been interaction with humans. Either this interaction came from the promise of reward, usually not something that is usually permanent, riches or things of that nature, or the promise of power, or what have you. Or they were beguiled, or they were tricked, not even realizing who the genie was. And these couplings produced a half race called the Qatari. So the Qatari are a race that can be used for Castles and Crusades. I am possibly debating creating a race book of some of these races to be added for Old School Essentials. That may be coming with the new year. It'll probably be out sometime in 2026 if I decide to do that. If there's interest, and you can tell me in the comments below if that would interest you. But the Qatari are basically half genies, and like other half races, similar to like the half elf, they need to pick which side. When you create the character, you need to decide which side is the dominant. Either your genie parent is the dominant, or your human half is the dominant. In most all cases, Qatari generally don't have much, if any, contact with their genie parent. If they do, they are already much older. They are probably I was going to say young adults, but that would imply that they are late teens to mid 20s. It's probably not going to be until their late 20s, early 30s in most cases that they would have any contact with their genie parent. And that's not to say that the genie parent isn't watching from afar. For the most part, the genie parent will use the Qatari to further their own ends, but never really revealing their hand in the background. And so, the other problem that Qatari face, and this is sometimes most commonly seen with half elves or infernals, is that they don't tend to manifest any of their outward physical traits or gifts until they have reached puberty. So probably anywhere between the ages of 8 and 13, they start to develop some kind of outward trait that shows them to be Qatari. And in a lot of cases, because of this, they are shunned by their communities. And so you see a lot of these individuals joining the Bedouin tribes of the nomadic Bedouin tribes of the Rabaria Desert, leaving their communities. The Bedouins seem to embrace them a little bit more than other communities do. If they do stay in the city, they attempt to cover up and hide their parentage, or they will kind of be outcasts in the city. It leads to a very lonely life, and so most Qatari are going to lean into having more or less a neutral type, at least on one axis. They're going to have a neutral disposition. They are mostly going to be a good majority of them with the neutral disposition. They are looking out for themselves first, and they will have a self-serving nature. This, of course, can lead them to some of the roguier classes, rogue, thief, possibly assassin. That would actually be kind of a cool class mix now that I'm thinking of it. But they lean in that direction. Others may lean into the arcane arts and become wizards, because they can spend all of their time cloistered somewhere studying with their nose in the books, and they don't have to interact with people very much. So each Qatari gets racial affinities, pretty much based on their parentage. The first thing that they all get is elemental gifts, and those can be rolled randomly depending on whether they are a jinn or an Ifrit parent. There are 6 different options. They might be able to cast gas form once per day, or levitate, or gust, or obscure with mist at will, while the Ifrit can produce fire, cast burning flames, cast pyrotechnics. They can alter their size. There's a number of gifts that can be given in it, and the player should roll twice on each of these tables, or if their castle keeper gives them the option, they can select 2. If they have human lineage, they get a +2 bonus to all saving throws or I'm sorry, they get a +2 bonus to one of their secondary attributes, and this is permanent. They also have spell resistance. They gain a +2 to saving throws against the elemental type of their parent. So in the case of Jinn, it would be any elemental air spells, or in a Efreet, it would be any elemental fire spells. They get a +2 bonus to those saving throws. If they have Genie as their parental dominant lineage, they can then, of course, choose two of the elemental appearance traits. And so for a Jinn, they might have hair that constantly seems to be blowing in a non existent wind, or small dust devil will swirl around their feet. They can get a mighty physique where they gain an automatic +1 to their strength attribute. They might even gain whirlwind flight, where they can transform the lower part of their body into a whirlwind to fly 30 feet for one round. If they're in a Efreet, they might have flame-colored eyes or skin that is tinted red or orange. Their hair can trail off into wisps of smoke behind them. They can sometimes their body will naturally generate heat, which will allow them to ignite flammable objects upon touch at will. So these are appearance options, and again, you can roll randomly 1d6 depending on who your parent was, or with your CK's approval, you can just select two. I'm more often than not, I allow the characters to just select two unless we are doing a completely random generation, and usually in that case, it's going to be pre-made characters, which I don't do very often in my games. I allow my players to create their own characters for the most part. So the other thing that they gain is that if they have selected the Genie as their dominant parent, they have telepathy out to a range of 60 feet. They cannot read surface thoughts or even use that to detect a creature's disposition. It's only for communication, and it's only at a range of 60 feet. And if they have the Genie lineage, they gain a +4 bonus to saving throws against elemental types of their Genie parent. So again, air elemental for air spells for the Jinn, or fire spells for the Efreet. They all know Handel, which is common, and Laraba, which is Ereboshian, and they naturally know the primordial languages. They are considered medium-sized creatures. Pretty much, for the most part, they look human with a few, elemental traits if they have the Genie parent as the dominant lineage. They have a 30 feet of movement. In their most common classes, they will typically become clerics or fighters. If they are a fighter, they are going to most commonly be seen as deck crew on ships, or they're going to be hiring out to merchant caravans, basically getting away from those city centers where they are overly not wanted for the most part. Rangers, another one where they can be out in the wilds, just kind of away to themselves. I mean, they can, of course, be any class, but these are typical classes that are used by the Qatari. And they get a +1 to strength, +1 to intelligence, -1 to wisdom, and a +1 to charisma. They do tend to be fairly charismatic, but that usually works its way into a kind of an intimidation factor, rather than becoming a cult leader or talking their way out of most situations. They get a +1 to decipher script, +1 to find traps, a +2 to hide, and a +2 to move silent. And this is all because of their upbringing. When they were children, they had to kind of keep themselves cloistered away from the rest of humanity because they would be abused and treated so poorly. So this is the Qatari half race, available for Castles and Crusades in the Braunhaven campaign setting. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.